Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Ms. Anne Marie Sorrell.
Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I am your host, Anne Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group, and I want to welcome you to another episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. We have a very special guest with us this week, Ms. Angelique Hibbert, who we're going to bring on camera.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Well, thank you. Another day. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope your afternoon, well, it's just getting started, but I hope your morning has been going well so far.
Most definitely. If I get a day, it's a great day, no matter what.
I agree. So before we get started, Angelique, I want to first thank our sponsors, Broward Health and the Florida Lottery, for making this broadcast possible. And I also want to introduce you by just going over your bio, if you don't mind, so our audience can get a little bit more background into the awesome woman that you are. And I've witnessed the work that you do and the passion that you have for your career and what you bring to our community. So you've been a Keys Company realtor since 2010. Angelique is a dynamic real estate professional. Yes, I've seen it. I've watched all your posts. I follow you on social media with a track record of achievements. She's a world traveler, lover of art history, philanthropist, and has an eye for interior design. Her real estate achievements has awarded her a seat as a governor on the residential board for the Miami Association of Realtors, the largest board in the country and number 2 in the world. She also promotes democracy in housing as a board member with the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Success doesn't happen without challenges, whether in a highly competitive market or through the real estate crash of 2008. Angelique has a great ability to produce results through forging relationships, skillful marketing, and negotiating expertise. She has a reputation of customer service that exceeds excellence. Her philanthropic efforts include serving as the VP of the South Florida Board of Women's Council, a volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club, and an expert art tour guide for Bal Harbor Unscripted. All right. Well, welcome again. So tell us about the Hibbert Group and just your, because a lot of people get into real estate, right? Like I have some friends now who's like, oh yeah, I'm studying for my real estate license. Tell us a little bit briefly about your real estate journey.
Oh, well, I started when I was 21. Wow. I bought my first house at 21, and I bought my first house not intentionally. I bought it because I couldn't afford to rent. So I was trying to figure out, well, how do you buy a house? And that's how my real estate journey started from there. From there, I said, well, of course I was a nervous wreck when I did that. And, I went outside at 3:47 a.m. in the morning and I said, oh my God, what did I do? I got a mortgage for $600. Like, where am I going to find this money? I got to go to work. It started when I was 21. And from there, it's always just being, I've just always been interested in real estate. I've always been interested in properties and home ownership. It's just a part of who I am because I knew I could accomplish it. And I did it over and over again. I became an investor. I lived in Atlanta for about 5 years. I bought several properties, over 20 properties, living there. And then we went into the real estate crash. And lucky enough for me, I was able to get rid of properties before the crash even came. And I have no idea that I could tell you that I strategically planned that. I did not. It just happened to work out that way. Came back down to South Florida and started with my sister, created the Hibbert Group, and we started from there. And the Hibbert Group is a group that's under the Keys Company. So when you're with a brokerage, you can actually have people who, you can create your own groups if you choose. So your broker will still be the Keys Company, and we have a group under the Kai's company. And it's very good to support people who are just coming into the business, who need that hands-on support. So that's a lot of what the Hibbert Group does. So, you've been in real estate long enough, you can really help others climb the ladder as well. So that's one of our major goals.
Awesome. Awesomeness. So you are and I hope I have this correct, the first Black female governor for the residential board for the Miami Association of Realtors. Share with us what that experience has been like so far, and why is this significant?
Well, for me overall, just looking at everything, it's one thing to be in real estate and do transactions. You don't want to be so transactional. You want to be a part of what you're doing. And being a part of boards are very, very important because boards make changes. Yeah. So with the Miami Association, I get the opportunity to go to Tallahassee, with a group of others. There are 20 of us that sit on the board, and we get to go and talk directly to senators, our Congress people. We get to tell them what our issues are, our condo issues, our streamline issues, our real estate issues. So when you get to actually sit at the table and get to talk to people who make changes, you can definitely make a difference. And that's why I've become part of the Miami Association, and I'm glad I was selected to be a part of the Miami Association. And it's not, it's also for home ownership, but it's also for the members. I think we have over 47,000 members, realtors. So, you look out for professionalism as well. Ensure that realtors are getting everything they could possibly get from their association to help them do better and be better at what they do.
Do you find that, because you being the first, why is that? Is it because of the participation level of minorities in like the boards and committees? Or is it that there is a challenge in being appointed? What's the challenge there? Because it's 2020, you're the first.
Well, let me tell you, I would say, I think it's more participation. I think what happens is that when you get into real estate, there is no paycheck. Okay, you have to go to work. So you're out there working, you're hustling, you're doing the things you need to do. So your focus is very transactional initially. And I think it takes a lot of growth to get to the next level. But if people understood that being a part of different organizations can help you grow your business. I'm going to be real with you. I don't sell houses. I sell customer service. I forge relationships. That's what I do to make things happen. When I know that there's a problem or a situation, I have someone I can speak to. I have someone I can call upon. So I don't just sit on the board just to sit on the board to say, hey, I'm on this board. No, we're forging relationships. And later on, if you ask a few more questions, I'll be able to give you a really good example of how that actually works.
Okay, good. So I know we're in like a very dynamic time right now in the country, and I think we're still bracing ourselves for what's to come. So what are some of the current trends that you're seeing in the real estate market?
Well, right now, we have about maybe 40% of our population working and 60% not working. Mm-hmm. So that is a detriment from that perspective. On the upside, real estate is booming. The interest rate is up 2.8%, 3%. We haven't had those percentages in 57 years. If you can find a way to buy, you buy now. As opposed to the other part of it, I would say, is that we're low on inventory. So that's making the prices a little higher. However, quick example, a house at $300,000 and a house at $330,000. The difference in your mortgage might be all of maybe $30, period. So what you really want, so people are willing to spend the extra money on a property because the interest rate is so low. When we used to have an average interest rate of 6%, that used to be what our good interest rate was in America. and you would be fighting for 6%. And then when we had Barack Obama come in, we had our interest rates cut down a little bit. We were in the 4s and 4.1, 4.2, and we carried on through his presidency until now, where we're at 2.83%. So it has been, there's some ups and downs. The commercial market has been hit, a little bit harder. Stores going out of business and so forth. But the everyday transaction for buying and selling has been good for the people who can do it.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about discrimination. Do you still see discrimination happening in the real estate market, particularly with lenders?
I would say that. Am I seeing it every day, all day? No, I'm not seeing it every day, all day. But there are a few things that have been taking place that I've seen. For example, I had a customer who had an 800 credit score, no debt, great employment. And here it is, their interest rate was almost 5%. Why? Why was their interest rate almost 5%? So of course we had to have a talk with the lender and say, hey, this doesn't seem to be right at all. Why are they getting almost a 5% interest rate in such a great market at this time? Switched it over. One of the examples I wanted to tell you, being a part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, we were able to reach out to one of our sponsors who happens to be a lender and say, hey, here's what we have here. Here's our problem. We need to close in less than 11 days. Can you help us out here? They closed at a 2.6 interest rate.
Wow.
Right? 2.6 from 5. That's almost a $400 difference in a mortgage.
Wow. Yeah.
Am I seeing it? Yes. Am I? Very much so. But again, if I wasn't a part of these boards, who would I have called? Could I phone and call the president or the CEO of this particular sponsor and say, hey, can you help me out?
Right.
So I was able to assist from that perspective. But the answer to the question is yes, it still does happen, and it shows in our numbers. Caucasians right now at 73%, and African Americans are at 43% of home ownership. Why is that?
Wow. Well, that gets into our next question. When we talk about wealth creation, which we know has to be the cornerstone of economic development, or part of our economic development strategy for our community, is to build generational wealth. So how important is home ownership for creating wealth?
Oh, it is extremely important. There are so many documentaries on showing how Caucasians were afforded the opportunity to buy homes at one point in time for $30,000 that are now valued at $400,000. So, there's a gap there. There's a huge gap. I don't know, about maybe 2 months ago, I know that a lot of the politicians were talking about taking away the 1968 Fair Housing Act. Why would you want to take away that act?
Right.
If we take that act away, then we are not able to measure where we are. So does that mean our 43% now is probably going to go down to 23% because now we don't have an accountability?
Right.
So these are the things sitting on different boards that you get alerted to, and you go and you fight for, and have these conversations with politicians and other realtors and let them know, listen, when you go to vote, you need to vote for certain things that are very, very important to home ownership.
Right.
So like, for instance, tell me why you want to get rid of the 1968 Fair Housing Act.
Well, why would, I mean, I'm wondering the same thing. Why would you want to get rid of it?
Right.
I mean,
because that way we no longer have to track people of color. We don't have to, yeah. So we know, I'm able to tell you we're at 43 and Caucasians is at 73, right?
Right.
If we didn't have that act, I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Well, you probably still would, and you wouldn't be able to tell which lenders and banks are not lending at the rates that they're supposed to either.
Exactly. So you understand. So these are the reasons why I become a part of boards. I want to hear what's going on. I want to know what's happening. Would I know if I'm being so transactional all day? It's all about getting someone in a house and out of a house. No, it goes further than that. It's not just getting in the house, it's staying in the house. And that's important. I mean, right now we have so many people, and in the city of Miami, Liberty City, the neighborhoods are changing. I went to Liberty City to go look at a house that was $350,000 in the heart of Liberty City.
In Liberty City, wow.
$350,000, brand new home being built on a lot, and it's being sold. And across the street, they're building as well. And 3 houses down, they're building as well. So we're losing some of the generational wealth that we have, where our grandparents have worked so hard and diligently and paid these houses off for 30 years. Do you understand what paying a home off for 30 years means? That means you pay for that house 3 times.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's what it really means. And so it's important for us to keep our neighborhood, keep what we have from our grandparents. And a lot of us are not understanding. They're losing these houses because they just won't pay the taxes.
I was just going to ask you, is it because people are just saying, okay, I don't want to deal with it, I'm going to sell it, or they got an offer? Because I know there are organizations and entities that literally will mail out, let me buy your house, or knock on your door and say, I want to buy your house. And usually it's way below market value. And they either going to tear it down and build something that they're going to sell for 5, 10, 20, 100 times more, or they're going to remodel it and sell it for, or rent it out for. So is it because people, just like you said, don't understand how this home that is paid for allows them to build and generate wealth? Or is it just that they just don't care, or what is it?
It's education, not knowing. Think about this. If you don't know, and you just know it's this house and that your lifestyle and the way you live was just very basic, you don't even know that you have wealth right in your hand. Sometimes it's in your face and you don't know it. So somebody comes along, an investor, and says, hey, I'll give you $100,000 for that house. How does that sound to you? Wouldn't you take the $100,000? The average person would take the $100,000, but what are you going to do with the $100,000?
Nothing in this market. Well, nothing in South Florida, especially.
And how long is that going to help you live?
Yeah.
If you don't have a game plan, right? So they come in and they tell them, oh, I'll give you 70, or I'll give you $100,000 and I'll give it to you and it'll be done in 2 weeks. Where do you make money legally like that?
No way.
Exactly. So now you sell the house and you give it to them, and all of a sudden the house is back on the market for $250,000 or $300,000. You are not even aware of all the money you just lost.
Right.
Yeah, you might have needed a new AC unit. Yes, you might needed a new windows and doors. There are programs for that, which you can pay through your taxes, but yet you don't have a mortgage. So you find out ways to get the help you need. We just have way too many programs that are available out there for our senior citizens. And you don't even have to be a senior citizen in some cases. It comes in your FP&L bill. It'll tell you some of the things that you can get. Your water bill, it tells you some of the programs that are in your city. So it's really just a lack of education.
Absolutely. Well, that takes me to the next one. Can you talk about the differences between home equity, refinancing, and then investment properties as ways to create streams of income?
Well, starting off with refinancing. Refinancing right now is huge because the interest rate is so low. So if you're there, I will give you a quick example. I sold a house to a young lady and her husband 9 years ago for $172,000. Okay. We were able to sell their house for $350,000, generational wealth, right? So they were able to capitalize on that, right? And they took that money and moved to another property, okay? So now their interest rate is way lower than what they had before. And so they're able to buy a bigger house, take the money out of that. Well, it's not necessarily refinance, it's actually a sale. So they were able to take enough money with them to put 20% down on their property, get a lower interest rate, and have a lower mortgage than what they had before in a smaller home. Your first question. As far as refinancing goes, refinancing is just good because you can save more money. So if you can refinance from an interest rate from 6%, 4% to 2.8 or 3%, then now you have more capital in your hand to put away, so you'll be able to buy another property.
How many times can you refinance? Is there like a rule of thumb, or?
As much as you like. There are time frames, 6 months, 7 months, and it depends on what lender that you're using. But I mean, and why would you want to refinance so much? I mean, right now it's just a really good time to refinance. Most people who want to refinance have mortgages that interest rates that are, either in the 6%, 4%, 5% in that range. So
Okay.
you can do it over a period of time. Normally the wait time is 6 months.
Okay. Now, what about investment properties? If someone who wants to either, I don't know if it's purchasing their first home or purchasing a multifamily unit or whatever, let's talk about investment properties and how one can create wealth through investment properties.
Okay, well, the same people who did the refi, the one that did the refi, the one who sold the property and that was able to get money from their property, which was through generational wealth is what I would call it, because they were able to get the equity out of the home and be able to purchase. Now they have more money put away, so they could make a down payment, a 20% or 25% down payment on an investment property. Let's just say individuals like you and I, you and I can get together and start an investment company, which I have done. I have two myself. I have one that I've done with 3 other young ladies where we have all put our money together and able to put, let's say, $100,000 away. So now we've come together so we can start buying properties, buying land, buying commercial buildings, things of that nature. We're all in real estate. However, what if you're not in real estate? What if you're, just working every day? You have money put away in your 401k, maybe $20,000. So you can take that money and put it into an investment property, get it out. Sometimes the investment properties already have equity in them. If you're in business, most cases, you'll find good deals. Is it easy to find a good deal right now? It's not as easy, but if you're working in the actual business or working with a realtor who's a lot into investments, you'll find several deals out there and make them happen. There are a lot of deals that come through probate, again, forging relationships with attorneys. So, working with a good realtor, refinancing your home and having money through equity of your home and having money, or just you and I, Anne-Marie, we get together and put away some of our money. Even if we save for the next 3 years and we say we're going to open a business and we're going to start out and both of us are going to put $2,500 into an account. And we're going to feed that account every month $300 or $400. Until we get to $25,000. Now we know we have some money to play with.
Mm-hmm.
The more come together and put more investment companies together, we would definitely be able to succeed through generational wealth.
Awesome. Wow. Those are good points. So tell us what types of, so for homeowners, or even if someone is, well, going back to the investment property, I'm going to tie it into this question. So whether it's for home ownership or if you're buying, let's just say your first property and you want it to be an investment property, what type of funding options and services are available to home buyers throughout South Florida?
Well, for first-time buyer buying investment property, it's going to be about 20% down. So maybe that's not the way you want to go initially. You may want to buy your first home, live in it for a year. The average person is living in a home now from 5 to 7 years. You might be a single person, you buy your first home, and you might want to rent it out thereafter. After you've had enough equity in your home, you might want to be able to take it out, or you're capitalizing on the actual rent, where you might have gotten such a low interest rate and your mortgages, let's say with everything included, is $1,500, but now you can rent the property out for, let's say, 19. So now you're making $400 a month off of that property, which is really good, you know, on a return on your money, from that perspective. But for a first-time home buyer, you may not want to just go out, because if you go to a lender and you say that I want to buy a property, investment investment means 20% down. That's what it kind of equates to.
Okay, but if you know it's an investment in your head, because really it is. You just buy your first home then, and then later, like you said, rent it out or refinance it or whatever.
Using a good realtor is very important, because one of the things that I really stress is that let's not just look at pretty. Let's look at location. Let's look at location again. Let's look at location one more time, which is very, very important, because this is your investment.
Yeah.
We can change what a house looks like inside and outside, but we can't change an entire neighborhood. And so that's what's also very important. And I'm not saying that neighborhoods can't change, but it takes more time for the neighborhood to change. Once someone sees that there are opportunities in certain places, like a Liberty City. Why is Liberty City such an important place to people? Because it's near so many things. It's not far from the airport. You're in the city of Miami. I mean, the location is what's important, and that's why a lot of people are going there, and that's why there's redevelopment. That's why there's gentrification. When you see those signs on the road saying hearing coming whatever day for your neighborhood, and you pass it on your way from work or walking, whatever you're doing, and you just don't ever go to those meetings, those same 5 to 7 people who do go to those meetings change your community. And then you're wondering, how did my community get changed overnight? Because we just don't show up. You have to show up to your meetings, to your council meetings. They're very, very important. Get familiar with the people who you vote into office.
Very.
Because those people that will be at those meetings, get to know who they are and understand. Listen, you might not understand all the verbiage and what they're doing, but you go to understand it so you can be very clear. Explain to me, what does this really mean? You want us to change the zoning from residential to commercial. Well, what does that mean? If you don't understand it, you go to those meetings to understand what's going on in your community. Now, you may have a block of properties now that's all zoned for commercial, and we have residential property directly behind it. Well, what is that going to do to your resale value?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who wants to buy your house that's behind a commercial building now?
Right.
So I think it's important for us to show up. How many more days do we have? Less than 40 days or so to vote, or just around about that. I just think it's really important that we show up, we get educated, we do vote for to put people in office, and people have to understand this is not just about the presidency. We're talking about our local people who control what happens in our local areas, our commissioners, our council people, our mayors. Those are the people who have control. You don't have the United States coming to your community and saying, this is what we're going to change. No. It's local. So that's really, really important, that you know who you're putting in office.
Now, I'll ask you this question, because we talked about, we referenced Liberty City a couple of times, and I work with, several CRAs, and I think sometimes by the time so first of all, when we look at communities that have quote unquote slum and blight, right? Mm-hmm. We oftentimes shy away from purchasing homes in those communities or buying any type of commercial property or whatever in those communities. And then by the time we look around a few years later, when we see those notices that you're talking about, or the coming soon signs or whatever, or, the house that's being built for $350,000, and we look up and say, wait a minute, what happened? How did we get here? And by the time we wake up as a people to say, oh, let me invest, everything is bought up. Like, why does this continue to happen? And do you see that there's any opportunity for us to kind of get ahead of that cycle that has happened, or is it just it's already a done deal in most places already?
Well, I don't believe in limitation. I think people of color have come a long way very quickly. We have a longer way to go financially. I do believe that there are changes that are out there. There was one program in the midst of Liberty City where the city had brand new homes being built for $205,000. And I believe there were like 30 lots. And that's a great opportunity. So my thing is that if you can't afford to buy a house for $300,000, but you can afford one for $205,000 that's brand new, that has a brand new roof, that has brand new appliances, that has hurricane-proof windows and garage doors, why wouldn't you buy into those communities? If 10 or 20 or 30 people to start buying into those communities, then you're changing the community.
Right.
Again, it's all about education. We just have to start getting educated. It's there for us. We have a program called MD that the National Association of Real Estate Brokers actually spearheaded that's now taken over by Miami-Dade County. This program never, ever goes broke, always has money. Why? Because every time anyone in Miami-Dade County buys or sells, whether it's commercial or residential real estate, that actual program gets funded. Okay. Now here's the question: why aren't people of color using it? That's the question. Why aren't we using it? Is it because our realtors are not very clear on what it is? The community, is it not being advertised enough? Of course it is. Problem is, we have to want what we want. If you want home ownership, you are going to find it. It doesn't matter where you are. I could care less if your credit score is 300. These are things that can be fixed. They can be repaired. We just have to believe in the process. It's available to us. Do you know that you can buy a home with Section 8?
No. I had no idea.
Section 8 voucher, just so you know.
Interesting. Well, I do know that there are several municipalities and some of the housing authorities do have home ownership programs that are available. I just didn't put the two together for Section 8.
Every single county has money. They may run out of money, but they get the money. So a lot of things we have to stop doing. We have to, listen, people don't like to get their credit pulled because they don't want to know. Well, that's like just going to the doctor. Like if you're feeling sick, well, you're just not going to go. I mean, you got to figure out what you're going to do, right? So you have to get the information in order to assess where you are, so you know where you can go. So I'm one of those people that said, listen, drop the pride. Okay, listen, I can take my jacket off. These pearls, they just look good. Okay, I'm here to get you into a home. I am here to represent as a professional for you. I don't really care. I've gotten a young lady into a property that was making $23,000, $100 a year. How was she able to purchase a home? She was able to go through the NSP program at the time for Miramar, which is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And she got $60,000 down payment. You know why she got the $60,000 down payment? Because her income was low enough for her to accept it. She was qualified because of her income. Then it turned around and gave her another $70,000 to renovate the entire property.
Wow.
Okay, so right now, and she's still living in her house right now. She's now, I always keep in touch because I always like to make sure, people are doing well. And here it is, less than 2 years later, she got an increase, almost $50,000 in a new position in her job. Now, can you believe if that would have happened, she wouldn't have been able to get the benefits of that program. So I just want people to know, you have to get out there. There are programs available for you. You can qualify. There are also people qualifying for programs that make $85,000 a year, and that's no chump change.
Yeah. So let's talk real quick about this pandemic. I know that there's been moratoriums on mortgages, rent, and so I want to know what your thoughts are. Like when these moratoriums are lifted, which I do believe some may expire the end of this month if the governor does not extend it again. What do you think is going to be the fallout? Because I just know in Palm Beach County alone, for example, I saw an article where there were, and this was probably in June, there had been already 15,000 eviction notices that were just waiting for this moratorium to be lifted. So that's just evictions from rents. But what about even the mortgages and the backlog on that? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, in some cases, what is happening with mortgages, some things have been changed. Initially, they came out with, we're going to give you 3 months to not pay, but then on month 4, we're going to ask for all. Well, if I didn't have it 3 months ago, I'm definitely not going to have it now. I mean, where am I going to find 4 months of mortgage to pay you? It's just not going to happen. So a lot of mortgage companies now have added that 3 months or 4 months to the end of the loan. So now you don't have to repay it within like the 4th month or so, which is good because some people are going back to work, but some people were working and making $70,000 or $65,000 a year, but they're going back to a job at $50,000 a year. So there are modifications in place and things like that for that. But is there going to be some real hardships? Yes, it's going to be some hardships out there. Now, as far as the rental process goes, this is the way I look at it. Something, again, voting for the right people to be put in office is extraordinarily important because something has to give. America is America because of the middle class. You take the middle class out of America, then we're a third world country. I don't believe that our politicians are going to allow that to happen. And again, voting is going to be very important because what are we going to do when we have 15,000 people in one county who are going to be evicted? First of all, we have enough judges to evict everyone. It's going to be a process. It's going to take time. It's going to take money. It could take another 3 years to evict that many people.
Wow.
So the question is, what do we do? And what do? We go out and vote. We go out and vote for people who are going to put the right plans in place to assist these people. Some people are taking advantage of the market. Let's be real. Some people are not taking advantage. Some people really don't have the money. What are we going to do? Housing has to be created. If we allow people to live on the street, we will become a third world country. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
It's about getting out there and voting. If we don't vote, that's where we're really going to have the problem.
Absolutely. Well, I think my thought and hopefully this does not happen. I know that in the 2008 economic downturn, we lost as a community, as a Black community, we lost a lot of homes and homeowners to foreclosure. And, do you see that as being a challenge for this, the fallout of this pandemic?
Well, it's two different. 2008 was a direct hit to real estate. This pandemic is a direct hit to the world.
Right.
It's two completely different things. 2008 was, the government allowed subprime lenders. What is that? The middleman to come in and say, hey, Anne-Marie, you can walk in my office and say, I make $200,000. I'm a teacher and my credit score is 150. So you were able to just verbally tell somebody what your credibility is and get a loan. So my thing with 2008, it's responsibility. One, the government probably should not have allowed subprime lending. Two, you were not a teacher making $200,000. So it's just that a lot of us put ourselves in positions we should have never been in. Then you're paying on an interest only. Can you imagine only paying the interest on a property? So here it is, you're paying $500 a month on let's just say on a $300,000 house, and then it matures 3 years later, right? Mm. And you're in shock because guess what your mortgage payment is? $2,300. Well, how did that happen? So in that case, we all have to take responsibility for the things that we did. Did we lose? Yes, we did lose. A lot of people lost. But of course, we were already behind. So that didn't help us at all. And we're still behind today. I mean, our gap from 1968, since the Fair Housing Act, hasn't gone up not even 10%. So I wouldn't blame everything on the 2008, because we also have to take responsibility for our actions. It was called no doc loans, meaning that no documentation to get a loan. Now you have to be aware that, you know, you went out and bought 2 Mercedes and you're living in a $3 or $4 million house, and what did you think was going to happen? You know? So people didn't refi when they needed to. Everybody thought that it was just, you know, oh, my kids are going to go to private school and I'm going to drive, my wife's going to drive a Mercedes and I'm going to drive a BMW and we're going to live in this house. And then when reality kicks in, we're going to take responsibility. So that's how I saw 2008. The rich got richer and wealthier, and some of the rich people got wealthy. Some of the rich people got wealthier, and the people who went in with the no doc loans really lost a lot. It hurt our community above and beyond. But again, with our community, we have to let go of pride. We have to start educating ourselves. Stop being so prideful about, you know, you don't want anybody to know anything. You know, I had so many people lose their homes and not even realize that you could have done a short sale. Banks like the bank and Wells Fargo was giving you $20,000 and $30,000 for not paying your mortgage for 7 years. Can you imagine not paying your mortgage for 7 years and the bank will give you a $30,000 check to move?
It didn't happen to me.
Again, it's about being educated.
Yeah.
More of people were so afraid, you know. I didn't want to tell Anne Marie that I was losing my home, you know, because, you know, 3 years ago when I was just out there flaunting and just acting as if I was just so fabulous, I can't let her know that I'm losing this home, you know. Now, Anne Marie is somebody who could have probably assisted me with what I needed, but I just didn't want her to know. So that's how we lose. We need to have more conversation. I have nothing to prove to you except to help you be better at what you want to do. I get a concern when I have people come and they're approved for $500,000. And I'm saying, well, what do you need a $500,000 house for? You trying to be house poor, house rich? What are you trying to accomplish here? You need to spend that money there, you know. And then I talk to them about generational wealth. Why don't you just get something a little smaller for now? You know, instead of putting all your money into this one house, is this all you're going to have?
Makes sense.
Exactly. So it breaks down the education and common sense in most cases. And I always think, unfortunately, in our community, pride is a big deal.
It is.
You know, everybody wants everybody to know everybody's doing great, but are you really? I mean, look at some of these companies out here. What are they saying? New York and Company, through this pandemic, think about it. They're closing their stores.
Yes.
The pandemic that it was only like 3 months and they already declared bankruptcy and now they're closing their stores. How well were they doing all the time?
Well, they weren't doing that well because they had started closing stores and this is one of my favorite places that I shop. So they started closing stores a few years ago, but I think the pandemic really just brought that clarity for them. Like, okay, we're just going to go strictly online for now. So exactly. Yeah, no, you're right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that you and I would look at a company like them and be like, it can't be.
Can't be, right.
It can't be. But the pandemic has brought it out. It can be, and it is. And it's happening to so many other places. So what it's doing, this pandemic is showing us the reality of where we are right now. If you are not able to sustain through this pandemic, then you are not where you need to be. It could be 1, because the opportunities are not there. It could be 2, that the opportunities came and you missed them. It could be 3, that you're not using the opportunities for your benefit. Yeah. You're just not, by being educated on what's going on. We have to stop being so prideful. You know, do we need to drive the BMW right now? I drive a Mini Cooper. It's paid for. I can drive something else, but it's not important to me.
Right.
I need something that's reliable, that works. Could I drive a Mercedes? Of course I can. But how's that help me?
Right.
We do those things when money is so lucrative that we could just have what we could have every day, all day. You know, what we want all day and not think about it. If we can't be there and we have to try to think about how we're going to get it, that is a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that thought, Angelique, because I know we want to be mindful of your time and our viewers' time. You dropped a lot of really great information here today, a lot of nuggets. And what is the one thing, if nothing else, that you would like our listeners to take away from today's conversation?
The homeownership is very, very important. And I will fight for democracy in housing as long as I'm in real estate and even when I get out, because what I understood, it has helped me get to where I am right now today. And that doesn't mean I sit on a big throne and I just got money just coming through, but it's helped me live a quality of life through home ownership. It is super duper important. Please do not be afraid of it, because if you can afford to pay somebody's rent, you can afford to pay your own mortgage.
Absolutely. Now, Angelique, where can people find you, learn more about you, be able to tap into the knowledge and resources that you know about? How can folks get in touch with you?
You can catch me on Hibbert Group, Hibbert RE, HI, B as in boy, B as in boy, ERT, R for real, and E for estate. So Hibbert RE is my handle for Instagram. I'm there all the time. My phone number is there. I get people to call me about all sorts of things. I want to make this last thing. Taxes are very, very important when you're buying a home. If you have a realtor who is selling a home and have not shown you the estimated taxes for the following year, find another realtor.
Oh, on that note, do you, because our listeners are from all over South Florida, do you work all over South Florida or only in the Miami area?
I work all around the world. I have deals in Atlanta right now, Atlanta, Georgia, all over Georgia. I've sold property in North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm now branching out to different countries as well. So everywhere. I am not limited to one area at all.
Awesome. Well, guys, you have heard from the expert, the queen of real estate herself, Angelique. This has been an amazing conversation. For those who are listening, please share this far and wide. Lots of great information, especially when we're talking about building generational wealth and just, economic development in our community. This conversation is so important. Homeownership is so important. So thank you for taking your time today, Angelique, and dropping these golden nuggets today. I appreciate it. So if you have not nominated your healthcare professional, I think nominations are closing very soon if they're not already closed, but you can visit miamediagroup.com/nominations to nominate your favorite healthcare professional, as the issue will be coming out in a few weeks. So you want to be ready for that. Next week, we will be joined by Dr. Gregory Adam Hale, who is the president of Broward College, who is doing some amazing work with Broward College. I cannot wait for our discussion with Dr. Hale, or President. How do you say it? Is it President Dr. Hale? You have those multiple titles. Right. But President Gregory Hale, can't wait to have our discussion with him next week. So again, please share, mark your calendars, and tune in with us next Thursday at noon.
Thank you.
Thank you.